Hey guys, Gear Dog here. I am sick of this holster. This is my Glock 19. Don't worry, it's already been safety checked. Here's the holster I've been using. Been putting up with, I guess is what I should say. It's just kind of a kydex, I don't know, duty holster, if that's a good word, but it's been really pissing me off ever since the day I got it. It's awful for concealed carry. It sticks out way too far. When the gun's in the holster, and it's on your belt, where it attaches is so low that it just wants to fall out on you. I've tried real thick heavy belts. I've tried tightening the belt up really tight, and you can get it to stand straight up if you tighten your belt tight enough, but then it's uncomfortable to carry. So I decided to get a new holster, and I've been looking at the crossbreed type holsters that have leather, half kydex holsters for a while, and there's a lot of people making them out there. There's the white hat, there's the crossbreed, the m-tac, there's the galco. There's a lot of them out there, but I decided to go a little bit cheaper route, and I went with Old Faithful holsters. There's a couple reasons why I picked this particular holster. Actually, I didn't actually get a full holster put together. I got a kit. So let's show you what I got here. This is the super deluxe kit, and I got, well, pull stuff out here. And basically he gives you everything you need to make one of those half and half holsters. Packaging's really nice. These plastic bags are nice. I'm probably going to reuse them for things. But anyway, with the super deluxe holster, you get, there's your clips. These are metal spring clips. So those look nice. Nice and strong. There's all the hardware he gives you. Right there, all your T-nuts and screws and Allen wrench and hose for spacers. And the big thing about the super deluxe kit is the kydex is molded for you already. So this is going to be obviously for my Glock 19. And basically what you got to do is cut it out so it fits your particular holster, and mount it on there. So it'll look something like so. As far as initial impressions on the quality of it, everything seems to be of good quality. This kydex is really thick stuff. Looks like good stuff. I did get the carbon fiber print because I wanted to be different. I thought it would look good on the black. Just good look at it. It's got a texturing on it. On the inside it's smooth, and you can see what kind of detail he's got on the inside of this molded piece of kydex here. The leather is definitely of good quality. That's really thick, heavy duty stuff there. But so my initial impressions, this looks like it's gonna work, and the super deluxe kit with just plain, not black leather, and just plain black kydex. I think starts at $29.99, and for black leather it's an extra $3, and for some type of print he's got camouflage, pink, kydex. Obviously he's got different bunch of different prints. You can get those for $3 also. So well, that concludes my initial impressions, and this is the point of this video. I think is going to be more tutorial based in my initial impressions, and then hopefully I can find some time to do a full review of the finished product once I've carried it a while and whatnot. But I'm gonna go ahead and shut the camera off and get set up to start making this thing. Okay, so first thing we're gonna want to do here is cut away this back portion of the kydex. You don't want kydex covering your grip here, and really the only portions we need are these flat portions here that attach to the leather. So you want to kind of seat it the best you can. I am a little held back by my crimson trace laser. I actually might remove that before I start this process. Okay, so now I've got the crimson trace removed, and as you can see, I can get the kydex to fully seat onto the gun now. The first thing we're gonna want to do is mark out where we're going to cut this, because you could start freehanding it, but that makes me nervous. So first thing we're going to do is start marking where we want to do this. Now the black kydex, I hear that the pencil shows up better, but this carbon fiber print, it does not show up very well on, so I'm going to take a chance and use red Sharpie. So I'm going to come up this way. I'm going to come up behind the trigger guard, because we do want the trigger to be covered at all times. And then we're going to kind of come back up the gun here. And we're just going to kind of bring it off the edge now. And the idea is cut a little off now and cut more off later. We might actually take that all the way out the other side. So now I've got a line drawn, and we will go ahead and start cutting it. Now to cut this, I'm trying to keep this project cheap. Really the best thing to use would be a bandsaw, but I don't have one of those, so I'm gonna try a hacksaw and see where I can get with that. If that doesn't work, I'm going to try the Dremel. I hear you can get good results with the Dremel, but it does add an extra step of, you can go ahead and cut the line with that pretty easy. With a cutoff wheel, this one's pretty small. But it does add an extra step of using a razor to trim off the melted kydex. So like I said, I'm going to try with a hacksaw here. This one's got some really fine teeth. I hope this one works out fine, and I'll go ahead and cut the camera off and see where I get from there. Hey guys, I'm not completely done cutting out with the hacksaw yet. It seems to be working fairly well. I think the small teeth on the blade are what's helping me, but one thing I want to point out here is this is best to do in a lot of cuts. There's no way you're gonna maneuver that hacksaw blade around in, you know, one cut and follow all these curves like I drew out. Like this is one particular case right here. You can see I'm going into a circle here and I'm doing lots of small cuts. I'm gonna cut this chunk out. I'm gonna come at it at a different angle and try to cut smaller and smaller chunks out, and then that way later on when I go to file or go to smooth all these corners down and everything, I'm probably going to use some files. I've got some round files and some triangle files and a flat bastard file that I'll use to round off all these corners and get a lot of detail. Yeah, I just wanted to show so far. Like I said, the hacksaw's doing a pretty good job. Just you gotta work your angles there to get it cut out right. So I'm gonna go ahead and finish cutting it out, see what I come out with, see if I'm gonna make any adjustments from there. So okay, so here I put my crimson trace back on, made sure everything clears on there, and I've done a little more refinement here. I think though I'm gonna kind of bring this out a little bit. I'm gonna kind of try to start rounding things off. I think I'm also going to come. Well, I might leave that for a minute. Actually, I'm gonna bring this down. I'm gonna kind of round things out. I'll turn the camera off, and then we'll start knocking these corners off and getting our placement on there. Okay. So now we need to start looking at where we're going to place it on the leather backing here. Let's kind of mess around with it. You want it to be high enough up on this piece here that you're actually utilizing this combat cut. That's one thing I'll talk about later when I do my sort of first impressions review. Is they give you this combat cut already. You don't have to pay an extra $15 for that. So you want it to be high enough up that you're actually utilizing that combat cut. You also want to make sure that your barrel is not you know, sticking out over here, up here, or anything. So we place that on there. That. I think that looks pretty good right there. I'm going to start marking out some lines to kind of take these corners off, because you definitely don't want those sticking out. I'm going to take this down. So I'm going to mark those out, cut them off, and come back and see what we've got. Okay, so here we can see I've got it everything trimmed up, so nothing's hanging off. I've got plenty of room to put my bolts down. May have to do a little bit of touching up right in this area, remove a little bit more, but I think I'm going to place my bolt right about here, one right about here, one about here, one about here. On his website, he recommends 4 bolts is plenty. I believe him. If I feel like it's not enough when I'm done, I can always put more in, but we're going to start with 4. So I'm going to go ahead, take my Sharpie, I'm going to mark my 4 points where I want to put my T-nuts. somewhere right about in the middle of each of these. And we'll go ahead and drill them out. I think it's a 3/16 inch bit. I'll double check that, but let's go ahead and drill the holes. Alright, so I've got the holes drilled. For these holes, I used a 5/32 bit, and I'm still just a tad bit too small, so it looks like 6/32 is probably about what, or 3/16. That's probably what I'm gonna have to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and widen these holes up, and we'll get to making holes in our leather. Alright, so I ended up using an 11/64 bit for these holes in the kydex. Now it's time to mark the holes onto the leather. On his website, the way he recommends is to use like a punch or something and poke through here and make an indent. It'll make an indent onto the leather. So let's make sure we're completely lined up. Alright, we're getting lined up, so let's go ahead and make some marks. There we go. And you can see those marks really well. Okay, now let's put our kydex back on and make sure that they line up well. Alright, looks like all the marks line up well on their holes, so let's go ahead and punch some holes in the leather. Now the best way to do this would be a leather punch. Unfortunately I don't have a leather punch, and like I said earlier in the video, my whole idea was to get into one of these holsters for cheap. So instead of using a punch, I've kind of experimented. I've got an old leather belt here. I've experimented with drilling. This is what you get. Now, this was punched with a 22 shell. This top one here that's kind of screwed up, the largest hole. That seemed to work pretty well, but as you can see, it got bent partway through and left a notch in there. Now the drilling, although not leaving the ideal surface, it actually seemed to leave a fairly decent hole. On the rough side of the leather, it was, you know, damn near perfect. On this side, we've got a little bit of a raised area, but I think we can kind of pound that down a little bit. So I think I'm going to go with the drilling method to, like I said, keep it cheap. Just remember to put a piece of salvageable wood behind it, and let's go ahead and drill these holes. Alright, so I've drilled the holes, and as you can see on these two over here, I've got this raised ring around it, and what I did is I just took the head of my hammer. I didn't strike it, I just, you know, pressed on it, kind of rock it a little bit, and it kind of flattens it out a little bit. And that really doesn't matter, you're going to have a bolt going through there anyway, so you won't be able to see it. We'll see how it looks at the end. Kydex looks like the holes line up pretty well. I got one that's a little bit off, so we'll see how forgiving this is. I got one hole that's a tad, it's just barely shy, and we'll see how forgiving this whole system is. Now it's time to cut the hose. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the camera off, get set up to cut the hose and cut some out, and we'll bang in the T-nuts and be close to being finished. Okay, so now I've hammered the little T-nuts in, so they're all smooth, nothing's poking out, nothing's gonna scratch you. On his website, he recommends a rubber mallet so that you don't get rings around your T-nuts. I was able to do a fairly good job without getting too much rings with just a plain old hammer. So the next thing to do, you can see these are sticking out a little bit on this side. He gives you this rubber hosing that acts as our spacers on these. So for the ends where the clips are, those are a 1/4 inch, and then for the spaces around on the kydex, those are 3/8. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those out, and we can start assembling. Okay, so here we've got all of our spacers cut. They're in place, and basically what's going to happen is we're going to set our kydex on there, going to place a finishing washer, and since I use the 3/8 spacers there, I'm going to use the longer screw he gives you. If you've got a thinner gun, you'll do a 1/4 inch spacer and use the shorter screws, and then you're going to use the shorter screws for the clips also. And before I go ahead and screw this down, I'm going to take some real fine grit sandpaper to the edges of my kydex shell, and we'll go ahead and assemble her up and see what we got. Alright, well, that looks like it's it. Got the clips on, got the kydex going, the other clip. Tighten things down. Retention, holding it just from the leather itself. The gun, I can get it to kind of wiggle out, but as the guy from Old Faithful Holsters points out, when this is inside your pants, this is going to put pressure on it itself, and one way to check is to grab it, put a little pressure on it, and then try to pull it out, see what kind of tension you're getting in there. Worked really well. I said one of my holes was off earlier, and you can kind of tell, you can see my screws here, look like they're kind of slanted a little bit, not that big of a deal. They went together fine. It was, like I said, they weren't off a lot, but it's enough to make these screws just a little bit tilted, but it seems fairly forgiving, and I guess I'll go ahead and put it on and see what I think.